Hello, YouTube. I figured I'd try something different. This thing I'm going to call Snap Talk. And this is my first episode. It's basically just going to be me talking into my microphone about things to do with Snapmap. And ideally, it would be something that people bring up in the comments, like a topic, like what do you, what do you think about naming maps or map descriptions, like what kind of information should be in a map description, or what are things, uh, how do you create horror elements in a snap map, or AI. I don't know, just anything that has to do with snap map that is just something worth talking about, and I'll just sort of share my thoughts on it, and it'll be fun, right? Or at least if it's not fun, then we'll just never speak of this again. But I figured it would be worth a try. So, yeah, Snap Talk. Let's talk about some snap maps. So, episode 1, why you should play Snap Map in 2019 or not. So, kicking it off with the most broad topic I could think of. The current state of Snap Map, is it still worth playing? Well, I would say yes and no, and really it just sort of depends on what kind of experience you're looking to have. So, SnapMap in 2019, obviously, it is not getting as much attention as it got during launch, but I would say if you are primarily getting into SnapMap as a SnapMap player, like you're just in it to play other people's maps and you're not necessarily going to be making a lot of your own maps, right now there has never been a better time to play SnapMap, because we've had years now of talented people making snap maps and getting better at it, and there's just so many good snap maps out there. There's never been a better time to be a player. You're going to have such a great selection of maps to play. Now, the tricky thing is going to be finding these maps, because one problem you're going to encounter right off the bat, and it might be a little frustrating, is actually finding some of the fun maps that are out there. So, if you're just looking at the tops of the category lists, like single player, multiplayer, campaign, horror, I'm not going to say anything negative about the maps that are there that occupy those top slots. They're not always necessarily the best maps. And I'm not ragging on these maps, because a lot of them are just really old and they came out back in the day, and there's this thing where like the early maps got all this momentum and people played them, and it sort of everything that came afterward just sort of got buried, even if it was good, right? So the trick is going to be finding the good maps, and the best way to do that is you're going to have to go online and search for some. There's you're going to have to search the forums, basically. You're going to have to, because people have aggregated lists of like some of the best maps. Another great way is just to go onto YouTube, because a lot of the best maps that are the most interesting, most of them have YouTube videos, because there have been people playing and reviewing maps. So if you just want to like just find something, right? Because it takes forever to load these maps. So even just blindly playing down the list, it's going to take forever to load them up. What I would do if you're new is just go into YouTube and browse around. Just type in Doom Snap Map and just skim through a bunch of videos until you find some maps that look good. But another good way to do it is just to sort of find some authors that you can trust that make good maps. So just to throw out some names, I would say anything Void Runner has done is pretty good. Spindleshanks is like probably my favorite author of all time. If not to diss on anybody else, but Spindleshanks has made some of the most interesting maps in my opinion. Shades Master does makes some very solid maps, and does an excellent job with secrets. I really learned a lot about secrets from playing his stuff. BAD Fluppy has some of the best art design, some of the best looking geo you can find. So yeah, just try out some of these names. A lot of it is just people who, and of course the community spotlight. I mean, that'd be a whole nother topic by itself, the community spotlight and why it's there. But yeah, play through the community spotlight. It's not a bad place to start. But really, you're going to have to sort of do a little bit of digging. Don't expect that the maps with the most plays are necessarily going to be the best maps. That's where I think a lot of people go wrong, is they just look for the maps that have the highest number of plays or the best up to downvote ratio, and they just automatically assume that they're there for a reason and that they're going to be the best maps, and in most cases they're not. Again, not to rag on these maps, but in many instances, they're just maps that came out, back when the game launched, and they had maybe one or two things about them that were novel, but otherwise they're kind of boring. So don't just focus on play count. You're going to really have to do a little digging, and there's plenty of people out there who will point you in the right direction too. So don't be afraid to talk to people who are on YouTube or in the Discords or in the chat rooms who talk about Snapmap. Everybody that I know who's still active in the Snapmap community, they're all really cool people. Most of the people who had issues, the people with the personalities who weren't very nice, a lot of them just sort of left the Snapmap community on their own because they weren't getting what they wanted from it. So everybody basically who's doing Snapmap nowadays is pretty chill, and they're more than happy to help you out finding some fun maps. So that's one thing I would say. If you're looking at, is Snapmap still worth playing in 2019 purely as somebody just playing through maps, absolutely yes, if you know where to look. Now, if you're as a map maker, if you're going to make maps, that's where I say maybe yes, maybe no. And it depends a lot on kind of what you're looking to get out of it. So, once upon a time, if you were to, back when the game launched, if you were to make a map that was really fun, that was, quality, you put your time into it, you made it look nice, you tested the hell out of it to make sure it wasn't broken, and it was novel, there's something interesting about it, well, some of those maps have gotten tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of plays. They've been very successful. That's not the case anymore. So if you make a good map, and it really doesn't even matter how good it is, honestly, don't expect to get more than a few hundred plays at most. So what I'm trying to say is, you're really striking while the iron is frozen, if you get what I'm saying. There's not a lot of people out there playing Snapmap compared to when it launched. So if your motivation for playing Snapmap, for making Snapmaps, is to produce something that a lot of people are going to be able to see and enjoy, and you're looking to get that sort of attention and credit, Snapmap's not really the place to be doing that. Not in 2019. Even if you spend a lot of time making something, it'll get featured on YouTube. There's plenty of people who will play it, and especially if it's good. But don't expect for it to ever be one of those maps that just has a super high popularity, even if it's good. So, that's one thing. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that either. I mean, I totally understand. Nobody wants to play to an empty house, right? Of course not. But at the same time, maybe it doesn't bother. Maybe you don't care. I made a lot of the map making I did back in the day. Nobody ever saw those maps except for me and a handful of my close friends. Like especially Far Cry, I made dozens of Far Cry maps that were I thought really high quality maps, but I didn't even have Xbox Live, so I couldn't even share them at the time. But It all depends. If you are looking to build a skill set as far as how to do level design and enemy placement and sort of learn player psychology, it's still worthwhile because you can still learn a lot from doing Snapmap. Like, I've just learned so much since the time I've been playing Snapmap about how do you design a level, and you think players are going to do one thing and then they surprise you and they do something else that was completely unexpected. So there's a lot to learn as far as player psychology. There's a lot to learn as far as how you want to design a level so that it flows and so that it's not like full of dead ends and the player doesn't have to do a bunch of backtracking. And there's a lot of sort of general knowledge you can accumulate building maps. And even if they don't get played very much, you're going to learn a whole lot about this type of a game, how to do custom maps and just build things. And someday there's going to be another game that comes out that has the level editor that's somewhat similar, and those skills that you have now can transfer over to that new game, and then you can make a splash in that, I guess. Because I look at a lot of the people who were kind of the bigger names in Snapmap Doom 2016. People like, let's say, Z Manzilla is a perfect example. He made Devil City Ransom, super popular game, super popular map, very good geo, extremely great custom geo. But he didn't start. He's been doing video game stuff for a long time. He's been an artist for a long time. What I'm saying is, the skills that you want, if you ever want to have like super popular maps, you have to sort of accumulate those skills over time. You're never going to come into anything cold with no experience and be super successful. So Snapmap is still a great place to find your sea legs as far as just learning how to build a level that's fun. And so if you're sort of new to doing level design, map making, it's a great place to get to cut your teeth, so to speak. And there's a lot of people who will help you out. There's never been a better time to build snap maps in a way, because there's so many people out there that can offer you advice on how to do things, how to get around certain issues. There's a great outreach support network of the Snapmap community, people that you can like the other day somebody was on the Discord saying like, hey, how do I get light into my modules? It's so dark. And that's something that you might not be able to figure out on your own or even just perusing the internet. But fortunately, you got access to people who've been doing this long enough that can really help you out with that. So that's really what it comes down to, I think. If you're just in Snapmap because you want to play the maps and enjoy them, yes, it's definitely the best time ever to play Snapmap. If you are willing to look in the right places, if you're sort of new to level design, Snapmap is super intuitive, very easy to use, easy to learn. You don't have to know how to code or anything like that. It's all very, very easy. I'm the worst person at that. I'm not tech savvy even slightly, but I was able to pick up the logic pretty easily. It's easy to learn, and I would say impossible to master unless you're somebody who's a real programmer, like Bethesda programmer, or no way, Behemoth programmer, who's like making doggone Tetris with Snapmap and crazy stuff like that. But yeah, I do a lot of rambling, so that's just part of the game here. Is just me going off topic, but yeah, absolutely. So if you're a player, if you're new to mapping, you can learn the basics and then carry that over to, because Snapmap's not the first type of game to have a level editor. It's certainly not going to be the last game to have a level editor. So you want to build up that skill stack so that you know how to use props, you know how to build a level that flows, the essentials. Now, here's the thing where Snapmap maybe isn't worth playing is, like I mentioned, you are not striking while the iron is hot. This game's been out for several years. Yes, more people own it now, but no, not as many people are playing it. There's reasons for that. I could get into in another video maybe, but the traffic is way down. Traffic is way down, and just the way that sort of the Snapmap menus are structured, you're not going to have. I mean, they're not doing the spotlight anymore, so that's one thing. But also, they're not. You're never going to get to the top 10 of any category. It doesn't matter how good your map is. And I'm just being straight up with you. So don't get into Snapmap because you're looking to get your name out there. It ain't going to happen that way. And I'm just being honest with you. But if you don't care about that, if you just want to just enjoy playing the maps, it's also, I gotta say, Snapmap is a great tool just as far as expressing yourself artistically. There's a lot of really, I mean, it is a fantastic creativity tool. You can make some just very beautiful looking levels. You can make little stories, and there's a lot of different ways you can use the Snapmap tools to sort of bring whatever's in your imagination to life and express yourself, and that's always worthwhile, right? So I guess I'll just sum it up here. So Snapmap in 2019, is it still worth playing? Mostly yes. Mostly yes. Except for, I mean, me personally, I played Snapmap for like maybe since launch up until now, essentially. So that's like, what, 2.5 years maybe? Just sort of straight. Like, I almost wasn't playing any other games because I was having so much fun with Snapmap. Because the actual act of building a map is a game into itself, because you have to know how to balance resources. You have to, if you're doing anything with geo, you have to, like, there's a challenge in like making your map look nice. There's challenge in using the logic to make sure everything works properly. There's a challenge in how do you keep the player engaged and having fun. Every prop, every light, every node of logic, it all takes up resources. And so it's sort of like a part of the game is managing your resources, right? It's almost like an RTS game in that way. But, there's just so many things about making a map, depending on how far into it you want to get, that it really is a game itself. It's just making a map, and like, even if you make a map, what's the best way to get it out there? How are you gonna like tease it out over time and try to build up hype, or are you just gonna sort of push it out to all the major YouTube channels that play snap maps and just sort of have it all hit at once? There's a lot of nuance into that, and those are all topics I guess I could get into more later. But I found even just making snap maps is, in and of itself, it has its own set of challenges and rewards that, to me, it's its own game. It's its own game completely. And it's still a lot of fun because, you get your map played on YouTube. You can watch other people play it and enjoy it. That's something you don't normally get to experience. So overall, yes, I would say Snapmap in 2019, still worth playing. Just moderate your expectations. As people like to say, is Snapmap dead? I don't know. I mean, in my personal opinion, no, because, is SSX Tricky dead? Is the original Halo dead? Is Morrowind dead? Is Super Mario dead? I mean, they've crested their popularity, sure, but everything does. Every video game will. The point is, those are all games that I still play to this day. And that's going to be the case with Snapmap, I think, unless they shut down the servers, which is always a possibility. But it's just always going to be in my rotation, and that's just how I look at it. Fantastic creativity tool. Yeah. So there it is, episode 1 of my Snap Talk series. Let me know by count of thumbs up or down what you thought of it. Don't be worried about hurting my feelings. And if you have any topics to do with anything involving Snapmap, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll make a video about it. And thanks for watching. Until next time.